You've made a small mosaic and you're looking at grouting the sides. Well, grout has no adhesive properties, so the chances are the grout is either going to chip or eventually fall out. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how to grout in Thinset on a small mosaic so that your sides will become a lot more durable. And I'm going to show you that right now. One of the things I need to point out is that Thinset is an adhesive. It is not meant to grout with. But it does come into its own when you are doing a piece like this and you're going to be grouting the edge here, along here. The thing with grout is it doesn't have any adhesive properties. With Thinset it does. So if you were to Thinset this piece and do the edge, then that is going to make the edges extremely strong, much stronger than grout, because grout can chip off. So that's the problem with grout when it's exposed, it can chip off, whereas in the actual grout lines, no issue with that at all. Now, because Thinset is an adhesive, you have to change things a little bit differently, and that is that you wipe as much off as you can and you leave it for only a few minutes, and then you go in for the wipe. Because if you leave it, you're going to have problems getting it off. And the longer you leave it, the stronger it becomes. So getting to it before it sets is how it works for you. Now, I would only use it on small pieces, and up on screen now I've put a photo where the actual, I've used Thinset as the grout in this piece. A couple of children did it, and then because the edges were exposed, it was a present for their mum and dad, and so those edges are not going to chip off. I certainly wouldn't do a big piece with it, small pieces. I haven't had any issues with it, but just bear in mind, Thinset is not meant for grouting. However, you can use it for grout, but you just have to be prepared for making changes, unlike grout where you've got some time to wipe it off, and if you leave it a bit longer, it's not critical because you'll know you'll be able to get off with a bit of work. But with Thinset, it will just get a lot more difficult. Okay, and all we're going to do is just give that a little bit of a final stir. Just pop it on. And I like to use my hands most times, and we just rub it in like grout. Now, some of these tiles have pits in, these light blue ones, so they're going to get blemishes in from the Thinset. Even if I was grouting with grout, it would still happen. That's why I only buy smooth tiles like these blue ones, because the ones with the pits are a complete pain if you want to get the grout out of them. Some people like that look, that's fine, but it's just I prefer not to have it if I can avoid it. And these were just some old tiles I had laying around. So we just wipe it well in. And the edges, we'll do the edges, put a grout edge along, a Thinset edge along there. Now I know some people are going, oh, why are you doing that? You shouldn't be using Thinset as grout. Theoretically, they're right. But if it works for you, why not do it? I mean, it's not like using wood outside where wood will deteriorate and expand and contract. You know, that's a no-no. But in the case of these, in the case of using Thinset, it's not a big problem. So I'll put a bit of an edge there. Along that whole thing there. Okay, so we'll take as much of that off as possible. Okay, and I'll just put a bit more of an edge on that one. I generally, when I do my mosaics, I don't leave an exposed edge like that. I use the tiles or whatever as an edge, but I don't leave it exposed. But that's just me personally. Everyone does their job differently. And if you want to know how to create Thinset out of grout, you can go to my previous video, and that will show you. So you can get the grout, you can get the Thinset colour of your choice, rather than just using white Thinset. Okay, we'll let that sit, and then we'll come back in a few minutes. This has only probably been about 3 or 4 minutes. I'm back. It's got a haze on it. Now we take it off with a very wrung out damp rag. Before I go any further, the products I'm using are Laticrete Permacolour Grout mixed with Laticrete Admix, which will create the Thinset. And as I said earlier, my previous video will show you how to do that by using Grout as Thinset when you mix it with Laticrete Admix. Okay, so we're just going to give this a wipe off, circular motion. And why you wouldn't use this on a big piece is because really you can't dilly-dally. You need to get into it to get that off. See those blue tiles? See the pits? That's why I don't buy tiles that have pits in them. It can be used for an effect, but my choice is not to use them at all with pits. There you go. Now what we can do is we can get a dry rag. Go over it. And then I'd let that sit a little bit more if you wanted to, and then go over it again. Just check those edges. And by using Thinset too, it's not as sloppy as what Grout is. You know, if you want to do a really nice edge, it's not as sloppy as Grout, because Grout you can pull it away, whereas when you're using Thinset, which in Australia is called cement-based adhesive, and I'll put the link down in the description box on the YouTube channel so you know what it is and where I buy it from. But certainly, if you're going to buy anything from Bunnings, don't go in and ask them for Thinset, because they'll have no idea what you're talking about, because it's American terminology. But I just find it's easier to say Thinset than what it is to say cement-based adhesive all the time. Okay, so that's the edges. There you go. See how nice the edge is along there? And you can make that even nicer if you want. Nice angled edge, and you know that's not going to chip out. I mean, this is on wood, so I didn't worry about that, but just to give you an idea, it all comes up really quite nicely. So we'll let that sit a little bit more, and then we'll come back and do a final clean on it. Okay, we're back. It's been about another 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and I'm just going to give this a nice wipe over. Again, just with a wet rag, or one that's been very well wrung out. Just to any loose bits or anything across the edge there. Nope, that's pretty good. It's good down there, across there. Now I'll use a dry rag again. And as you can see, the tiles really buff up really quite nicely. It's only those ones with the pits in that I don't like. But you're right, using those on a piece as a effects would look quite good in a certain area, but you know, you want to be careful if you're going to cover your whole piece in those tiles unaware that they've got pits in, and of course when you grout, it's going to show that, and that's fine if you're expecting it, but if you're not expecting it, then that's not very good at all. That's a downside to them. Okay, I think that's pretty well got it. So there you go, that's your edge, which is, see how nice it is all the way around? Well, there you go, that's how you grout with Thinset. But you can grout with Thinset, you just have to be very careful and take into the consideration that it is going to cure a lot quicker than what Grout will. So if you have any questions, put them down in the comments section on the YouTube channel. I hope that's helped you, and I'll see you in the next video. Enjoy.